Welcome to the special series of Real-ationship Talk, the podcast created to celebrate Black men and men of Black heritage, recognizing who they are, their achievements, the impact they're making, and the legacy they're leaving. In today's episode, I'm in conversation with Frederick Afrifa, a global keynote speaker, communication expert, and founder of Believe in Greatness, a leading communication training company. You may recognise him as a candidate on the BBC's The Apprentice, season 19, where he gained national recognition and was praised by Lord Sugar for his communication and pitch delivery. Frederick specialises in helping professionals and leaders communicate effectively under pressure, particularly in high-stakes environments where clarity, confidence, and influence matter most. He works with organisations such as NatWest Group, London School of Economics, Shell, and the Financial Times, helping their teams translate technical expertise into clear, compelling communication that drives results. Today, his work focuses on one core idea: you will always be perceived at your level of communication. You can find out more about Frederick's transformational work in the show notes. During the conversation, Frederick dispels some common communication myths. He also explores how to overcome communication challenges and explains why he truly believes that whenever you speak, every presentation should feel more like a conversation. He shares how having core values that guide both your life and profession is foundational, and why integrity and passion are two of his chosen values that have helped him to live his dream career and create success. Frederick also speaks about the importance of purpose, identity, and emotional vulnerability in shaping mental health, well-being, and the journey of success. Alongside that, he reveals the one question every man, especially Black men and men of Black heritage, ought to ask themselves regularly, and so much more. Whilst this series celebrates the voices and experiences of Black men and men of Black heritage, the themes explored in this conversation are relevant for anyone interested in identity, growth, and meaningful relationships. You are about to get the whole RLT, aka Real-ationship Talk, so you're going to want to watch the entire episode. I hope you will find this conversation as captivating as I did. And remember to subscribe, hit that like button and that notification bell. I'm Teresha Young, your host and international wellness and relationship coach. Enjoy, take notes, and get ready to apply all key messages you take away today. Hello, Fred. How are you doing today? Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on. I'm very, very excited to be having this conversation.
Me too. I am absolutely excited for you joining me for this very special series that I am creating here for Real-ationship Talk, the podcast. However, before we start talking about your journey, I would love for you to share with us, who is Frederick Afrifa in your own words?
Ooh, that is a good question. I would say Frederick Afrifa is someone who deeply cares about people. And currently, the main thing that I do is I help people get really good at articulating themselves in high pressured situations, typically work settings. But also, I have a passion for young people, and I go into schools and I help young people believe that, irrespective of their current circumstances, they can achieve their goals and dreams.
I absolutely love that because I've been following your work and I find you and your work so inspiring. There's just so many facets to what you do. And I would love for you to share with us, because you spoke about your journey and you didn't even speak English.
Yes.
Like, and listen to the way that you are articulating yourself now and the way in which you communicate and teach communication skills. So I would love for you to share with us, what has been your personal and professional journey of growth so far? What does that look like?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So I grew up in Italy, in Milan, and moved to the UK when I was 11 years old, turning 12. So I'm in high school now, and I didn't speak a word of English, as you alluded to. And that was a real tough period because I could understand the basics, like hello, hi, bye. Coming from a Ghanaian household, but speaking it was a challenge.
Mm.
And then also being in school, right, in South London, where a lot of words aren't in a dictionary. That was a real adaptation phase. So I actually recently asked my mom, how long did it take me until I was fluent? Because I don't, for me, it was just a blur. I remember not understanding anything, and then all of a sudden I understood everything. And
Yeah.
she said it took a few months.
Months.
Yeah. I guess it was just the baptism
Wow.
of fire,
Look at
right?
me. I'm on Duolingo learning Spanish for 2 years and I'm still not getting it. What took 2 months?
I think being immersed in it is also a
Yeah.
thing. And at that age as well, I think there's studies that suggest that if you're younger than 13 years old, you tend to absorb a new language quite quickly.
Okay.
So I guess that all played to my advantage. But I was naturally quite shy and introverted as a kid because of all of the changes. And then growing up in Italy as well, being the only African family in the whole area, the only black kid in school, that came with its own challenges.
Yeah.
So I think it's been a real journey of kind of self-discovery. Athletics played a big part. I did athletics for 13 years, and that taught me quite a lot about resilience, hard work, delayed gratification, and it gave me a real goal to chase.
Mm.
But what I found is that I was quite confident in running, but not so confident in speaking. And that's when I realized that confidence isn't universal, but it's a lot more specific than we understand. You can be really confident as a driver, for example. It doesn't make you confident as a chef. They're totally different skill sets.
Of course.
So yeah, and then athletics happened and COVID made it quite difficult to continue. I got COVID and then I stopped running well simply put, to stop getting paid for it. And then
Yeah.
that's when I started the speaking journey, which initially started as a journey to just get better at speaking. And I'd go into schools to talk about my athletic career as a personal development thing. And then a school paid me for it unexpectedly. And I thought, oh, you get money for this?
Yeah.
And then that's kind of how the career started.
Amazing. I love that journey there and everything that it taught you about yourself during that journey. I can only imagine how challenging it was for you because it was a very young age and going through COVID. Now, what have been some of your, I guess, personal challenges? Because you spoke about the wonderful outcomes, resilience, delayed gratification. What were some of the challenges that you found yourself facing during that time?
Yeah, quite a few. I think the first one is that my main goal is to go to the Olympics as a sprinter. That's the big dream. I had done the European Championships and representing Italy as a sprinter of color had some challenges because when you do really well, you're embraced, and when you don't do as well, you're not embraced. So for me, actually, in 2021, I went to Ghana for the first time without my parents. I'd been before with my grandmother. I went without my parents for the first time, and that was I think a life-changing trip because it really helped me with the identity challenges that I had.
Mm.
Then going to Ghana in 2021 helped me realize like I am a Ghanaian man. I just happen to be born in Italy, and that's kind of I identify as Ghanaian now before
Yeah.
anything.
Okay.
So that was really important. And then narrowly missing out on the Olympics was, yeah, it was so annoying because I felt like I was a nearly person. I always nearly got to positions and then I fell out. It happened with the
Mm.
Olympics. It happened with The Apprentice, which we might speak about later. I applied for season 18, didn't get on. So, yeah, I think all the successes that came as a result of so many failures, so many no's. But athletics, again, taught me that in athletics, you have 30 races in a season,
Yes.
but your season will only be remembered by your fastest time.
Uh-huh.
So like, I could have one good race and it
Yes.
was a good season, though I
Yeah.
lost 25 of them. So I've always kind of had the mindset of, all right, like, let's just keep going, keep going, keep going, because I just need one big win to cancel out all of the failures that I've had.
Yes. That's amazing because you've gone from being an athlete to then being a global speaker to being on The Apprentice to having these great gifts when it comes to communication. So, how did you transition? Because they're two different sense of purposes. Like, how was that transition for you? How were you able to move into communication?
Yeah, it was really difficult, to be fair, trying to figure out what else I was beyond being an athlete was
Yeah.
quite the challenge. And for me, I just wanted to improve my communication because it was actually one of my weakest parts. And I think it's testament to, I think truly, really and truly, any skill, if you put time and energy into it, you can get really good at. So I
Yeah.
wanted to get better at speaking because I did have a degree in accounting and I just thought I may need to do job interviews. I may need to speak to people at some point. I just need to get less anxious when I'm speaking to strangers. When speaking to friends and family, I was okay. And then along the way, as I started to improve, I realized that this is a skill that not many people worked on because communication skills, they aren't taught in schools. Most organizations don't invest in the staff, and people just assume you're either good at it or not.
Mm.
But then I've just came to realize from my own personal journey that no, anyone can get really good at it if you put time and energy into it. So initially, what started as a personal journey
Yes.
became something that, oh, wow, now that I've gained these skills, I can actually teach people them. And then just getting paid for that is just the icing on the cake.
Of course. So I love the fact that you had identified something to work on. That's all part of growth, isn't it? Is you find that area of improvement and then you find ways in order to nurture it and to grow it. So what would you, because you spoke about, perhaps at school. I know, for example, for me, some of my communication challenges were being shut down at school.
Mm,
Humiliation, for example, in those situations where you may, well, for me personally, put my hand up to ask a question and then the teacher shuts you down. And then you just feel like I'm never ever going to talk
gonna do
again.
that again.
So it's those. So, what would you say are some of the communication myths that people face in your experience?
It's a really good question. And recently, someone asked me, when you speak to young people, you speak to adults, what differences do you see in terms of the challenges? And I said, you'd be surprised, it's a lot more similar than you think. And
Mm.
for a lot of adults, their fears when it comes to speaking stems from the time they were in school. So similar examples to the one that you said, where you have to read out a book and you
Yes.
said a word wrong and now everyone laughed and now you have a negative experience when it comes to that.
Mm.
So one of the biggest myths I think in speaking is that you're either born a great communicator or not. And people just assume that when they go to their workplace, people in senior leadership positions are naturally great speakers.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, they are very good because they've received training. And now that I'm on the other side of it, I see that organizations are more likely to invest in their senior leaders than they are in early talent. So the early talent think, oh my goodness, the leaders are great at communicating, but actually they've had training for it. And another big myth is that people think that confidence is the absence of nerves. So they think that you can't be nervous and confident at the same time. But actually, I say that confidence is your ability to be the best version of yourself, even when you're nervous, because nerves can't really be eradicated if you're just about to do something that you really care about or that you haven't done before or in a long time. Your body will react in a way where you will feel nervous.
Yes.
I spoke in Johannesburg in January in front of 600 people. I was so nervous, and this is my job. So I can only imagine someone who, so confidence isn't the absence of nerves, and understanding that is good because it will change your relationship with nerves. When your heart's beating and your hands are sweaty, it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you care about the thing you're just about to do.
Oh, I love that. And that's twice now I've heard you say that word care. When we've done the introduction, you're talking about how you care about people and you care enough about your work. So caring is so important, I believe, for the way in which we show up. And you spoke about being the best version of yourself. So I am now super curious, Fred. What does the best version of Fred look like? Do you have a daily method of operation, a DMO, so to speak?
No, it's a really good question. I think being the best version of yourself is what I call an endless race where there is no arrival. So just like fitness, if you get very, very fit, but then you get complacent, you lose it. And I
Yes.
think it's the exact same thing. So every day is an opportunity to learn more about yourself and what the best version of you looks like. And for me, something that's important for me is to have that balance. From when I was young, I've been in a position where I've had to, put in the extra hours and kind of hustle my way through. So now, when I have a little bit of free time, my default state would be, okay, what work can I do now? But actually, I've realized that I cannot pour from an empty cup. And because my job requires me to have so much energy to give back, I need to make sure that I rest when appropriate and I just pour back into myself. So I am the best version of myself when I do that, when I give myself time and energy to relax, refill the jug before going out into the world.
Oh, many people don't appreciate that rest is still productive.
Yes, yes, I totally agree. I've had to learn that it's actually a competitive advantage to be able
Yeah.
to rest and recuperate, and then you can end up being more productive when it's time to work.
Absolutely. So I was going through a similar debate recently, just reintroducing meditation back into my mornings. So
Mhm.
after my daughter goes to school, I thought, let me do a meditation, less than 10 minutes. And I'm there thinking, but what am I losing? That 10 minutes of downtime, I could be doing at least 3 emails in 10 minutes. But the power of rest is so important. And I'm with you in terms of making sure that you fill your cup up first.
Yes,
Is that analogy that we often hear, isn't it? About putting that oxygen mask on yourself first in order to be able to look after other people, care for other people, which is so
vital.
important for the way in which we conduct ourselves. So you did mention The Apprentice,
Yes.
season 18, season 19. So tell us a little bit more about that experience because you did end up on season 19. So what did that look like for you?
Yeah, so I in 2021 when I was in Ghana, I it was in December, and one of a gentleman that I had met the summer before announced that he was on The Apprentice. And this is season 17 of The Apprentice.
Okay.
And that was, I'm a fan of the show, but that was the first time I had met someone who had then actually gone on the show. And when I met him, with all the respect, he didn't seem that impressive per se. Right? So I just thought, yeah, if this person can do it, I think I can do it as well.
Yes, got a benchmark.
Exactly. One thing about Ghana as well is that with the hospitalities, the food takes a very long time to come when you're at restaurants. So I was at a restaurant with my cousin, and we are both tired. We went out the night before on our phones, and while waiting for the food, I applied for The Apprentice, and it was quite a quick job on the application. Then I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
So 2022 approaches, and then I get an email saying, "Oh, you're through to the next stage." And this is for season 18 of The Apprentice. And I thought, okay, that's pretty cool. So I go there and 80,000 people applied that year, quite a lot. And then actually even just making it to the first stage of the auditions was quite a proud moment. What I did strategically is I reached out to the gentleman who was on season 17
Okay.
and I said, hey, I just got through to the first stage. Is there any advice you can give me? Are there any tips? And he gave me some really solid advice. So I kind of knew what to expect a little bit going into it, which
Yes.
was really helpful. Went through 3 months of auditions, pretty much every couple of weeks going back into London. And then I was placed in the final 25. So in the final 25, 18 get on the show,
Yeah.
but then seven of us are reserves.
Okay.
So I thought, okay, there's actually more of a chance of me getting on the show than being a reserve.
Yeah.
And then on the day of filming of day one, they say to me, well, you're a reserve. And unfortunately, no one got ill, no one pulled out, so you're not going to get on the show. And
Okay.
it was so disappointing because it did feel like the whole Olympic thing all over again. Like, why
Yeah.
did I have to get so close for you to tell me no? Like, just tell me no at the
Yeah.
start.
Don't make me waste my time.
Exactly. So disappointed. But then at the time, I was already doing quite a lot of speaking.
Yeah.
And my whole talk is about resilience. So that's pretty much been the story of my life. And then I remember being in the taxi home thinking, imagine if I apply again next year and I get on next year. That would make the story even better. But I don't know if it'll be possible. So I thought, I'm going to go for it again next year.
Yeah.
So I applied for it again next year. The team already knew me as I had already got to reserve stage and then zoomed through every single one of the auditions. And then I got the call saying that you're on.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Congratulations, because you spoke about resilience. You also spoke about, or not necessarily what I'm going to say, is persistence as well.
Mm,
I like the acronym PUSH, persist until something happens.
I love that.
And when you actually persist and you believed in yourself, you believed in your greatness, which is so important. I think it's a really important message is that you must have had some learnings from season 18. Now, what were some of those learnings that you thought, let me take that forward into season 19, if you're happy to share?
So many, I think, and that's the cool thing about failing is that you learn so much. Right. And that's the good thing about it. So that's why I've totally changed my relationship with failure. I embrace it. And even when I do succeed or do a good job, I think, what bit didn't go so well? What bit can I improve? Because I think you can improve every single time. So from season 18, I actually did ask for feedback, and annoyingly, they didn't give me very good feedback.
Yeah.
But what I did learn is that, especially on a show like The Apprentice, it's a, a reality TV show that's business themed rather than a business show,
Mhm.
meaning that they care more about the individual than the business that you're building. So some of the mistakes that people made is that they had very impressive businesses, but that's all they would talk about.
Yes.
Whereas I spoke more about my journey and why I was an impressive person and put the business as a secondary thing. And that's
Mm,
something that I learned in season 18 that I carried into 19 and I
yeah.
got on it. And actually, anyone that wants to go on a show, my advice is always focus more on yourself than
Mm.
on your business. Help them understand why you would be a great candidate rather than your business to
Oh,
be
yeah.
an investable business.
People buy people as well when
Mm,
you think about it. There is that saying out there, people buy people. And you can have the mind, you can have all the logic behind business, but the heart, I think we as people, we carry the heart, the heartbeat of that business. So I absolutely love that you shared about bringing yourself, into, and is that probably one of the key things when it comes to communication is that we can be so much focused on performing, you know, that we lose bringing our authentic self. And authenticity is a word that we hear out there.
big
Everyone talks
time.
about be your authentic self. In your own words, what is authenticity?
It's a good question. I truly believe that whenever you speak, every presentation should be more of a conversation. So I think we should avoid performing. And actually, one of the myths is that public speaking is like a performing art, but I totally disagree. I think that it should be more conversational for many, many reasons. One being that with attention spans dramatically reducing,
Yes.
people are more likely to stay attentive and pay attention if you're conversing with them. And
Yeah.
that's the reason why we can listen to a 2 hour podcast, maybe two people having a conversation, we feel involved in that conversation. Whereas, unless you really care about the topic, if you're to just listen to one person speaking for 2 hours about this subject, it may not hit the same. And I've had big organizations, big corporations say to myself and my business partner, Gordon, that if it wasn't you guys delivering it, we don't want it. Like they really invested in us.
Yeah.
And there's pros and cons because as a business owner, I'm trying to delegate and get other people to do this. No, no,
No,
no,
no, we want you,
no,
Fred.
no. Okay, fair enough. But that's the power of embracing
Mm,
authenticity. And to answer your question, I think authenticity is trying to reduce performance as much as possible. When you just try and put the audience, the listener, before you, that's when the magic happens. So when I'm speaking to primary school kids, I'm thinking about, okay, what do primary school kids care about right now? What's going to add the most value to them? And that's different to sixth form kids. So when I'm speaking to sixth form students, it's a very different thing. When I'm speaking to leadership teams within in Russell Group universities, it's a totally different thing. So I have to, like as individuals, we are layered a little bit like onions, and there isn't just one version of us. And I
mm,
truly believe, when people talk about, for example, code switching, etc., I think it's about bringing the version of you that's most appropriate for this environment. So the way I speak to my mum and her friends isn't the same way I speak to my school friends, but it's still me. It's just the version of me that's appropriate for this environment. And there is a thin line between adapting to your environment and
mm.
changing who you are.
Yeah.
But that's it. What's what we should try and strive for.
Yeah. And that will probably take some work, isn't it, for you to actually take down and sit down to say, okay, so how do I show up in each one
Yeah,
of these environments?
yeah,
And then be in alignment with how you show up. Because, yeah, Teresha, the mother, can look very different to Teresha, the sister, the daughter, Teresha, the partner, whatever that
yes.
looks like, it can look very, very different. Teresha, the coach, the relationship ex, everything can look different. But for
Mhm.
me, I know that for my essence is love and care.
Mm,
If I'm just operating from that, how I show up in each one of my environments is still in alignment with who I am.
love that.
So I absolutely love what you share there. You have had some incredible journeys. You've spoken about athletes, you've spoken about, being on The Apprentice, being in Italy, then growing up in the UK, in London. So what is your personal definition of success at this stage in your life?
It's a really good question. And I like the way you asked it because it has changed over the years. And for me, I would consider myself successful right now because I think success to me is your ability. to add value to the world and to leave a place better than you found it. That's what I believe success is. And it's one of those ones where, especially as an entrepreneur, as someone who's ambitious, I always moved the goalpost. So I'd say, okay, I'll be successful once I do this.
Yes.
Once that is achieved, I think, no, 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 I'm not successful yet. I'll be successful when I achieve that. So I had to sit with that question, ask myself, what does success actually even look like for me? I
Yeah.
said, no, well, the 18-year-old version of me would find 30-year-old version of me to be incredibly successful.
Hmm.
So what is success to me? And I truly believe that for me it is leaving a place better than I found it. And allowing myself to do that, I need to be as selfless as possible. And it links to all the things that I spoke about when it comes to communication. I believe the best communicators are selfless and they think about other people before they think about themselves. Actually, when communicating, I think you as a speaker, you're the last or the least important part of the equation. What you should be focusing on is the message you're delivering it and then the listener.
Mm, I love that definition of successful where you are now. If I was to ask you that same question in 2 years' time, it may look a little bit different because of
Yes.
growth and the
Yes.
journey that we go on. So, would you therefore say that what you said about leaving, people better, the place better, is that your definition of a legacy then? So, what legacy, if any, would you like to leave?
It's a really good question. Actually, I watched the Michael Jackson film like a couple of
Oh,
days ago. Yeah. And I've been thinking about pretty much the legacy that he left, or because you can listen to a song or watch him perform, or even his nephew perform on film and feel good, right?
yeah,
And bringing joy to other people. And I feel like that's a great legacy to leave, bringing joy to other people, especially in a world where the darkness or the negativity gets the most attention, the most limelight.
yeah.
What I want to do is just shine my little light and be as authentic and transparent as possible about how I'm achieving my goals so that anyone who's willing to do it, they have a blueprint to follow.
Yeah, that's so powerful because the joy and the light in a world where you said there can be darkness and negativity. So a lot of that darkness and negativity can have an impact on our mental health and
Yeah.
well-being just because of the society and the world in which we live, cultures. Now, from your perspective, how has the conversation around mental health and well-being evolved over the years, especially for Black men and men of Black heritage? Because you spoke about your Ghanaian identity and some of the challenges in Italy where you're loved as a colored person when you're doing your thing, but then when you're not doing your thing, you're not loved so much. So how have you seen the conversation about mental health and well-being evolve over the years, particularly for Black men and Black men of heritage?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the good thing is that now more people are speaking about it. I
Mm.
think one of the challenge. There are quite a few challenges, I think, in our community, but when people do well, often they don't necessarily want us to talk about it.
Yes.
But when things don't go so well, people are very loud about it. So
Yes.
that would make someone think that, okay, it's not possible to be successful if
Yes.
you're in our community or you're more likely to. So I think it's very important for me to share, especially with young people, what success can look like and how it's not necessarily what they see on social media.
Yeah.
Because one of the challenges recently young men were going through is the whole manosphere situation, right? And I think putting myself in the perspective of a young person is that if you're 15, 16 years old and your definition of success is a Lamborghini, for example, you see someone online with that Lamborghini, you're inclined to listen to them and try and follow their footsteps. So for me, when it comes to helping the mental health of young Black men in particular, it's important for them to have relatable individuals that they believe they look like that have achieved great things because it's going to give them the aspiration to do so as well. I think that's going to be something that I'm actively going to be pursuing and working hard towards. And also something that I think needs to be spoken about more is just the impact of social media, of the constant use of social media. Because even for someone like myself, who I consider myself to be successful, I'm living the dream. if I spend a prolonged period of time on social media, I start comparing myself with individuals and I start to question myself. And I'm living the dream. So I can only imagine someone who already isn't necessarily happy where they are. It can have a detrimental effect. So I think limiting the time that you spend on socials is a great way to boost your mental health.
I absolutely agree because we are in that society where we can just get so distracted by our phone just a little bit, even 2 seconds, as you said, and the attention span and our focus has reduced significantly.
Yeah.
And that's really key advice there. So if we are in a society where we can be doing comparisons and the like, what would you say proactive well-being and self-responsibility looks like in everyday life, because it does take an element of responsibility to say, oh no, I'm not going to be on social media as much as I am. So what does proactive well-being and self-responsibility look like?
Yeah, it's challenging because if you're not spending time on social media, you need to think about how you're going to replace that time. That's the
Yes.
main thought because ultimately we're wired now to just pick up our phone anytime we have a gap,
Yeah.
anytime we're bored. So it's about, picking up new habits, having
Yes.
conversations with people in real life. Like back in the day, if you have those gaps, you would probably just call a friend,
Yes.
right? Whereas now you're less likely to call a friend and you feel like you know what your friend is up to because they recently posted on their story, but actually just getting back in touch with old friends. So like our job is to try and find other things to do in that time. And then if you have like a young person in your life that you're looking after, to help them find hobbies and other things that they can potentially do to fill that time. Because it's one thing saying, yeah, let's spend less time on social media, but without something to replace it, that change might not be effective.
Mm. I like what you're suggesting there, and I hope I'm hearing this correctly, is the giving back. How would you, because you do your work, you go into schools, you give back, I do my various different parts of giving back too. And volunteering and giving back is so important to me. It really drives me. What would you say is the value behind giving back into communities and into society?
Yeah, I think it's invaluable, and there are many non-tangible benefits, right, to giving back. Like 2 days ago, my wife was saying that she wants to do more to try and kind of find a purpose or something more meaningful. And I was saying to her, I said, just find the cause that you care about, and then don't wait until you're in a position. Because she says she's working 9 to 5, she's regularly busy, and I said, look, that's perfectly fine. The perfect conditions will never come to you. Just dedicate whatever you can in terms of time, energy, finances, whatever you can to a cause that you care about, and you will start to feel a lot more fulfilled. So selfishly, it will help you as a person to feel more fulfilled. But also, when you talk about legacy,
Yeah.
now when my family first moved to London, we were a family of four, and we lived in a three-bedroom flat in Brixton.
Okay.
But we lived in one of the three bedrooms, and then there were different families in the different bedroom. And it
Okay.
wasn't en suite. It was so we've along the way had so much help from so many people that some we knew, some we didn't know, from charities that have been able to help us out. So for me, I feel like a sense of responsibility. But now that I'm in totally different circumstances, I pay it forward.
Mm.
So I think the value for me is both kind of selfishly and also selflessly. I feel like to whom much is given, much is expected, and I feel compelled to give back for that reason.
Mm. I love that. And when you were talking there, there's something that I also say is like, find what makes your heart sing and go do that
Mm,
thing.
mm,
When you go do that thing, because it makes your heart sing, that can often lead you to that sense of purpose.
thanks.
And also, I say to people, think about when you was a child, what actually brought you so much fulfillment as a
Joy.
child? Because it's usually you can transition that into something in your adult life as well and go and pay it forward in some way, shape, or form there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Or what challenges did you overcome? What's
Hmm.
something that you wish you knew when you were 16,
Yeah.
12 years old, before you had a child, before like there are so many roads that we've gone down as human beings, and it's like there are so many lessons that you've learned that if you were just to teach someone who's just about to go through that, they would be incredibly grateful. You can do that in terms of volunteering, but also I believe that that's also a viable business. When people ask me, "Oh, what do I speak? I want to be a speaker. What do I speak about?" I
Yeah.
tell them, "Well, think about something that you wish you knew 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Find a group of individuals that is just about to go through it, and then just create your talk around that or your service around that, because there are people that would pay to learn the things that you have learned through life."
Yes. So when you boil it down, it actually can feel quite simple.
Yeah,
We complicate it
I
so
agree.
much. And sometimes when we have a conversation, we're just like, if you just go back to what makes you happy,
Thanks.
and it can give you a sense of direction and sense of purpose. Have a look over your challenges, and if there were any challenges, how did you overcome them? We are overcomers in some way,
Yes.
shape, or form. We are resilient people. We can be victorious. So have a look at some of those things, and then have that steer where you are. But I can only imagine that there must be some core values that you have
Yes.
that actually help direct your life and your business and what you do today. What are some of those core values?
Yeah, no, that's a really important question, because I think having those core values is the foundation to do the things that you have to do. So my core values are integrity, number one. In a world where social media portrays things that aren't necessarily always the truth, I
Yeah.
think that integrity plays a crucial role. So, number one, to try and do things with as much integrity as possible. Number two, passion. And especially as I've climbed up the social mobility chain, I get a lot more opportunities. And that helps me decide what opportunities I go for. Like, am I actually passionate about this? Finances aside, is this something that I truly care about and I can do to the best of my abilities? And those are two values that I always think about when helping make decisions. And I think, especially in that decision making phase, if you have an anchor or you have a goal that you want to get to, it really helps you make the decisions. It's a little bit like the sat nav analogy, that if you don't put a location or destination in your sat nav, you would be lost and you just be driving up and down thinking. And I feel like that's how some people are living their lives, because they haven't got those values that give them a north point that then allow them to have a direction where they want to go.
Mm. So important, because I think the word values will be new to many people because they won't think, what is a value? And your core values there, integrity and passion is fantastic, because you don't have to make it complicated. I remember back in the day when I used to have like my list of 15 core values, and I thought, how core are they? If I've got a list of 15. And I just got very confused. So at least if you can just, boil it down to, a few core values and use that in terms of your decision making and our discernment, I think it's a fantastic way to be able to have the foundation, as you said, for the decisions that we make and our evaluation of life, because life is life in.
We'll do so. Life, real life, right? Our life. And there'll be so many moments where you think, oh, should I do this or should I do that? Or
Mm,
even, for example, with content, and
yeah.
it's what kind of content do I want to post, or how often do I want to post this content? And because one of my values is passion. Okay, so what things am I passionate about? All right, so I'm just going to speak about the things that I'm passionate about. And it helps me in those moments where otherwise I'd be a little bit confused.
Mm.
Leaning on them, it helps give me direction.
Oh, so important. I'm really enjoying this conversation, Fred, because I think a lot of people, as you said, we're not always used to seeing what success looks like, particularly in our community as well. And we're not shouting about it because often, you're bigging yourself up,
Yeah.
those type of things. No, 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 no. Look at the, ego and all that kind of stuff. But it's
Yeah.
really important to show what success looks like in so many different areas outside of the material
Yeah.
aspects, the Lamborghini, the designer clothes, whatever that looks like, because I also believe that success is a feeling as well,
Mm.
rather than all of the material things that come through. Like, what is that? How does it make you feel?
Mhm.
Um, and when it comes to our community, particularly when it comes to Black men and men of Black heritage, it's actually leaning into our emotions and being emotional vulnerable in those situations. How have you approached being emotionally vulnerable, in terms of your life? Because I do think it's key in order for us to be able to achieve some great things.
Yeah, I think for me, I'll have to speak about my wife. I got married 7 months ago, so still,
Congratulations.
thank you very much. Still very new. And I met Laura in 2021 when I was a delivery driver.
Mm,
And she was one of the first people outside of my immediate family that I could be vulnerable around.
yeah,
Having that as my foundation, being able to then allowed me to be the best version of myself out in the world. So I think it was vitally important that when I was able to around her be emotionally vulnerable, be authentically myself, then I didn't feel like I needed to pretend at any point. Right. And that's where the power comes from because pretending is a huge weight on your shoulders. And as black men, we often feel like we have to go through that, or even if things aren't going well, we have to look like they're going well. You're wearing a mask and it does weigh heavier over time. So allowing yourself to be emotionally available and to be emotionally vulnerable is a weight of your shoulders that then allows you to run. As a former sprinter, if you're trying to run with weights, you're not going to run as fast. It's going to fatigue. You're going to be tired. So imagine removing those weights, how much faster, how much further you can go. And I think that's the perfect analogy that I used to describe it.
yeah. I love that analogy because many people out there don't really realize the power of having a support network. You spoke about your wife and your journey there with her and her being a support for you to be able to share. And I do really encourage people who listen to this conversation to, if you don't feel that there is a support network in your inner circle, is to find external support networks
Yeah,
that you can reach out to as well, whether that is something in your community, whether that is online. But the power of actually opening up and being emotionally vulnerable and available is so important because it allows you to let go of that weight and that pressure. It's so important.
totally agree. Totally agree. And I think it's not a coincidence that even when I look at the most successful men, especially successful black men, they've all have been in long-term marriages, long-term relationships, and I don't think that is a coincidence.
No, I don't believe so
Hmm.
either. So Fred, I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I would love to ask you a couple of questions actually, as part of this conversation. So, as we bring the conversation to a close, I would love for you to share with the audience one key takeaway actually that we can leave them with from this conversation.
One key takeaway that we can leave them with from this conversation, I think I would go back to the word care.
Yes.
And I think it's been a theme throughout this conversation and throughout my life. And ultimately, the way I've been able to grow in business is I have found something that I truly care about and dedicated my life to solving this problem for as many people as possible. And what ends up happening is that you do something that you love and then you get paid proportionally to how many people you help. So the more people you help, the happier you are, but then the more money you get. And then it's just a win, 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 win. So I would say, find something that you truly care about.
Mm,
Find maybe something that made you light up as a child or a situation that you've been able to overcome. And then think about how can I help other people that are going to go through it or that are currently going through it. Because whether it is volunteering, whether it is business, it is a win-win situation when you're able to leave a positive impact on individuals in life. Then my personal journey has would suggest that that's where the magic happens.
mm. I love that reflection. I do encourage people to sit back and reflect upon that. Really key. And the next question for you, Fred, is what is one question every man, and especially Black men and men of Black heritage, ought to consider asking themselves regularly?
Oof. What is one question
Yes, one
that,
question, especially Black men or men of
yes,
Black heritage, ought to consider asking themselves regularly.
it's a deep one.
It's deep.
It's a
I
deep
went
one, it's
there.
a deep
I went there.
one. I would say I'd give you a deep answer. And the question would be, when it's all said and done, what do I want people to remember? I think that's a powerful question that I often ask myself because it pulls you out of the day-to-day madness that life throws at you and reminds you that we are here on borrowed time. And when it's all said and done, what do we want people to remember? What legacy do we want to leave? And what are we doing today to try and make that happen?
That's amazing, especially when you think about, what are you doing today? Because that grounds us in the present,
Yeah.
because sometimes we can think about that legacy, in the future, but what are you doing today?
That's
And then at the end of the night, what did you do today?
yeah, honestly,
Not to
honestly,
beat yourself up, but then there's
yeah,
always growth from that because there can be reasons why we have not necessarily achieved what we wanted to achieve in that day.
for
And it's
sure.
understanding what caused that and then saying, okay, so what can I learn from that experience and how can I do things differently?
Absolutely. And with this mindset, I think you cannot fail.
Mm.
If every time you go through situations and you're analytical, okay, what didn't go so well? What can I improve next time? Over a long enough period of time, you're going to achieve any whatever goal it is. Because again, using a sprinting example, if my aim is to run 10 seconds, right, and I'm currently running 14 seconds, if every run I think, how can I improve? And I go from the 14 to 13.8 to 13.7 to 12.9 to eventually I will get to my goal. As long as I don't get discouraged and I think, what can I do better next time? You're gonna get there. It's only a matter of time.
Mm, the beauty of compounding.
And that's it. Compound effect.
The compound effect. I love that. So, Fred, thank you so, so much. I would love for you to share with the audience where they can connect with you. They want to discover more about you, about the work that you do. Where are you hanging out?
Everywhere.
Everywhere, omnipresent.
Everywhere. So whatever platform you use, whether it's YouTube, whether it's TikTok, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Instagram, just type in Fred Afrifa. It's like Africa, but you replace the C with an F, and you will find me. I'm trying to be a lot more on YouTube where I do long form videos, giving people tangible advice on how they can get better at speaking and communicating. But I do that on every single platform.
Yeah, brilliant. And I'm going to drop all of your links into the show notes as well so people can easily access your information. And I would strongly invite you and encourage the listeners here to follow Fred because his work's inspiring. I love the work that I've been seeing that you've been doing. So thank you as well for shining your light and making life feel lighter and brighter for so many people in what they are journeying on. So thank you so much.
Thank you for this help for this conversation. Much appreciated.
Thank you. And for everybody who has listened to this wonderful, captivating conversation, I want to thank you for your time, for your attention, and for your energy. And until the next episode, take great care of yourself and others too.